Thank you. So welcome back to the series Blockchain in Art and Fashion. This is the second seminar about blockchain wallets protocols. So we're having today with us Ariel Wengroff, editor-in-chief from Ledger. We have Mo El-Sayed, head of community and education, also from Ledger, and Lucas Vera, founder and CEO of POAP funds. So we will be covering a lot of basics about blockchain, the underlying technology, what is blockchain really, differences between wallets and protocols as well. And we will be minting some NFTs at the session, trying to have you set up your own wallet. And then you can start your journey, because last time no one had an NFT. So we'll make sure everyone will get one. So yeah, welcome to the game.
Thank you.
Great to have you. Let's start with the most basic question. What is blockchain?
Ooh.
Great.
Should I go first?
Yeah,
Go for it.
you guys don't know, but we jokingly call Mo Professor Mo. So you're in for a good treat.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Who knows what Web 3 is?
Can I raise my hand?
Who knows what Web 2 is? Okay. So the idea is that I think blockchain technology is really at the core of what Web 3 is all about. We also call it the Internet of Value. And if we revisit the history of the web and start from the Internet of Information, it's really at the basis of how information was being distributed over the internet. And it's really what took us to this moment where we have a huge network that has a lot of different participants that can share information. But the thing with Web 1 and Web 2 is that we could not share value with each other without resorting to third party. So for instance, if I send any of you a picture, I get to keep the original of that picture. And what I actually do send you is a copy of that picture. If it's an artwork, it's kind of the same thing. A file, kind of the same thing. So we could not actually enable scarcity over the internet. So when we were dealing with money, we always had to resort to a third party that was doing the bookkeeping for us. So if I wanted to send any of you like £5, I'd go to Revolut, sign in with my account, put in my banking details, put in my name. They'd know that I'm Mo, and that's my name, my picture, and I have this amount of money in my account. And if I wanted to send any of you £5, they go to my account, deduct £5, add it to yours. This is probably like the most convenient solution we have for now, but it does have a lot of drawbacks. First of all, in terms of privacy, all of the information is being centralized at the data center somewhere. In terms of accessibility, I don't really own those £5 because if my Revolut account gets, blocked for some reason, if I lose my card, or if I have any other problems, there's actually a third party that can basically prevent me from accessing my wealth. And then there are also, like, when we talk about fintech and we talk about, all of the banking infrastructure we have today, there are a lot of drawbacks related to mismanagement, possibilities of corruption, etc. So this is really, I'm actually trying to get you to Web 3, but the idea is that the centralized model of exchanging value has always been done by a third party that had complete control over the data and the value itself. So in 2008, after the economic crisis that happened, a guy named Satoshi Nakamoto decided that that wasn't necessarily the best model. And he was trying to think of a new way through which people could exchange value without having to resort to a third party. And that's how blockchain came to life. Imagine blockchain like a network of different computers. Instead of having actually one ledger that is centralized and that will have one entity doing the bookkeeping, there are actually thousands of computers doing that at the same time, which means that there isn't one single point of failure, which also means that if one node, we call them nodes, but that's a little bit outside of the scope of this talk. But imagine if one of these computers decide to cheat, all of the other computers are going to be able to say, hey, you're actually not doing the right thing. There's something going wrong with your books. So there is this idea of consensus that instead of having one single person or one single entity regulating this whole kind of mechanic, you have thousands of entities. And that's how blockchain came to life. And the idea is that when you actually create a blockchain account, you don't give your data. It's completely data secured. You can create a blockchain account through something that we call public and private key cryptography. So you actually go to the blockchain, you say, hey, I want to create an account. Probably the blockchain is not going to ask you for any sort of data. You're just going to have to get an internet connection. And once you create your account, you have two keys, a public key and a private key. So the public key is kind of like your mailbox. Anyone can send you assets to it. The private key is kind of like the key to your mailbox. Only you know it, and you should keep it secure. And this is basically how the blockchain works. If you own your private key, you can go to the blockchain, you can say, hey, this is me, and it enables you to prove that you are you. So if someone gets their hands on your private key, this is like the single point of failure. This is the biggest problem, because since there is no bank involved, there is no Revolut, there is no fintech, means there is no customer service, there is no one that can actually stop that person from basically accessing your funds or any kind of value that you have, whether it be art, NFTs, etc. So the whole concept of the blockchain is that it enables you to become digitally sovereign. You own your keys. It means that you own your assets, and you can transact freely without having to resort to a third party. So I think this is kind of the easiest way to set the table, but maybe if we start going deeper into what wallets are, you want to talk about wallets?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just to piggyback on that, which is a very nice way to describe it. And hello, everyone. It's nice to be talking with you today. Go back also and think about what Web 1, and I think we should also preface this by saying a lot of this terminology is actually things you already know. And whenever there's something new out there, it's just sometimes the words can make something feel harder than it actually is. So if Web 1 was sort of username, password, Web 2 is much more login with Facebook, login with Google, which to Mo's point is very much, okay, what can we take from you? What information can we take from you? How is there a third party that's facilitating this experience? Web 3 is login with your wallet. And so to Mo's point, when Web 2 really came out, which was kind of like the internet that provided so many of the elements of sophistication that we use today, the one point of failure that was never completed, which was originally promised, was this peer-to-peer payment system. It was this idea that you would have access to broad information and be able to pay and be able to utilize this technology in a way that would be fulfilling for each individual. And that never happened, right? In fact, it became the period of instant gratification and yes, to get what you need. And so part of what is important about Web3 adoption and why we talk about this and why it was necessary for sort of the blockchain introduction is that your wallet and that private key is actually across all of sort of Web3 or all of the internet, where all of your assets and all of your value are stored. And it's actually all stored on the blockchain. So instead of it all being within one site, so let's say it's instead of it all being within your Google G Suite, right? And Google has access to that information. It's on their cloud and you pay for access to your information through it. But if your credit card defaults or you run out of money or you forget your password, they have it, right? You don't have it. Whereas within Web3, within your wallet, as long as you have your private key, you always retain that information, those assets, and what you want to do. So to take it a step further, if, I'll age myself in that I'm not that old, but as someone who played The Sims all the time as a kid, or Oregon Trail or whatever, it would be really fun to have all of the things that I built in those worlds as mine. Or it would be really fun to have my original AOL account or my Flickr photos. But I don't have them because those sites change and you lose access to them. And you can't use them anymore, right? Some of it's nostalgic and some of it's for utility. But another example is that I recently moved to France and it's really hard to set up your bank account there and to get these PIN code numbers. And I know it's the same way here. And so I had a few months where I literally couldn't get access to my money because I couldn't get this PIN code, which felt so horrible as a human being, because you're wait, but this is my money and I can't figure out any modern day way to get it, right? And so you need a wallet for Web3. And I think it's important too, because everyone talks about Web3 in these terms as if it's this radical act. But actually, we spend so much time on the internet today, there just should be something that measures the value of your time in that world as much as we do for IRL. So anyways, that was a roundabout way to basically get to the fact that the wallet is the essential place where you hold all of these digital assets and crypto. And you want to make sure that you're using, or we fundamentally believe, one that allows for you to have self-custody, which means that you control your private key, because a lot of these exchanges or other ways that allow you to create a wallet, which aren't bad, if they get shut down, you're still in that Web2 game, where you still then lose access to your funds or your digital assets over time.
And we'll be practicing that
Yeah.
in a bit.
Yeah.
There's a learn by doing module where you will be creating your first blockchain account if you don't have any. And it's going to be on the slides and you will be able to do it in a couple of minutes. What I wanted to add to that, to this certain conversation that I have with curious people about what we just said, is the concept of true ownership. Like we just said, the Googles of the world, the Apples, basically these new lords of this world today has, because we choose to have our information because of the next that we never have ever read, right? And so this true ownership means that you will have much more responsibilities, but it also means that no one ever, not even Jeff Bezos, could come and remove and he's done great stuff also. He's not that bad, but no one will be able to remove those assets from you. And again, if you lose the key, then you lose it all. That's why there's people looking for their hardware in their dumpsters because they left a couple of Bitcoins a couple of years ago. But mainly what you have to understand is that it's new digital citizenship and that you will have to secure it the best way. And here we have some experts of it.
But yeah, let's go into this keys. I think that's a very important thing that we're not speaking much. I myself had a ledger in 2017 and I lost the seed phrase.
Yes.
So that was when Ethereum was $300, I think. Yeah, so I have no access to my wallet anymore. And I have war stories. One of my best friends, her boyfriend also bought, I think, some Bitcoin in 2017, and he wrote his seed phrase like under the table, and they broke up. And the moment they broke up, she threw the table away. And, he did call her back saying, "Do you know where's the desk?" And she said, "I don't know." And
The
then she
ultimate
moved.
sacrifice.
Yeah, and I was like, I think she knew about that, and I think she threw the table like on purpose. But that was quite, like all these funny stories about people calling back their exes and like, where is my seed phrase?
But I think that's why the education is so important with the seed phrase. So I guess let's just, for 1 second, let's pause. Like how many of you are following? Like how many feel like you kind of know what Web3 is now a little bit? Raise your hand. Kind of, okay, a little bit more. Okay. So if let's say you're like using this new system online, you still access it as if you would the internet, right? You're just going to different sites for it. If you get a wallet, there are kind of two versions of it, which I'll let you dive into, but there's hot wallets and cold wallets. And depending on it, no matter what, you always get a seed phrase. And for Ledger, it's really important, or for a wallet where it's more around self-custody, you take the ownership of that seed phrase, and it's like a password, but it's a longer password, and you write it down and you keep it somewhere. And it feels very strange that this like future world requires that what you write down, you have to keep off any internet on a piece of paper. But because it's new and because it's yours, there's an inherent responsibility with it. And so that means that you don't give it to a friend, you don't give it to your partner, you don't give it to a bank or a lawyer or your mom. You're like, this is the thing I'm going to be ultra paranoid about. Like if I were in a heist film, this is the thing I would be protecting, and like having 3 cars driving at the same time so you don't know which one is in, to like keep this phrase. Like that's how important it is. And in the future, I'm sure there will be things where there will be insurance, or there will be ways to protect it because you'll split it up, right? Or things like that. But it's like your password for your life, basically, as this continues to evolve. But I'll let you explain kind of the difference between the wallets.
Definitely. And I think like to take one step back, the idea of, Web3, we're talking about digital ownership, we're talking about Web3, blockchain, all of these things are kind of bundled up. And the word that we often use is you know, you become digitally sovereign. It means that you're becoming digitally free. You're not a tenant anymore. You're becoming a landlord of your digital existence. And by tenant, I mean that you're using Google or Amazon or Facebook. And the thing is that today, data is the most valuable thing. And when we use any of these services, I mean, like Lucas was saying, all of these Web2 giant, they enabled, you know, they enabled us to exist the way we exist today. But there are a lot of drawbacks, you know, related to that. And the idea is that you should have the option to be able to secure your digital existence in a way that enables you to be completely and fully own your data. So that being said, you know, with big freedom comes big responsibility. And if you're going to become your own digital kind of landlord, it means that you have a lot of responsibility to secure your digital existence. And with that being said, the private key is really what enables you to, like I was saying earlier, to prove to the blockchain that, you know, X asset belongs to you. And to secure that private key, there are actually three ways you could create a blockchain account. How many of you have a Coinbase or a Binance or a Kraken account and have already bought cryptocurrencies? 3. Okay.
Oh.
Have any of you transferred your cryptocurrencies outside of the exchange to another self-custodial? So you're the no? Yes.
I'm just not in her class.
Yeah, it's all right. So you're the only one that's actually doing self-custody today. For the other ones, what you've done is that you've created an account and an exchange, you've given them your identity, and what you actually own is your email and password. But it is the exchange that actually owns the value. It's the exchange that has the keys. So in that, you know, particular circumstance, you do own cryptocurrencies, but you own cryptocurrencies through a third party. So you're not basically the owner of the private keys. This is one way to do it. It's pretty convenient, but it's kind of like, you know, using Facebook to buy cryptocurrencies, which is not something you could do now. They've been trying to do it for a while. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but anyway, you get the idea. Today, if you want to own your keys and if you want to be, you know, digitally sovereign, there are 2 ways you could do it. One is less secure than the other. You could do it through a software wallet or a hardware wallet. A software wallet is a wallet that is actually sitting on any internet connected device, your laptops, mobile phones. You could set up a wallet in a few minutes. Lucas will show you that in a few minutes again. And the idea is that with a software wallet, you could have a very easy way, a very accessible way to basically towards the blockchain. But the drawback is that you access software wallets through Web2 hardware. What we call Web2 hardware is any internet connected device that was conceived for exchanging information. So your phone is actually designed in order to exchange information with other people, your laptop as well. And all of these hardwares were actually designed in a way that would, basically make any exchange of information as fluid as possible. That's why you can log in, to Uber with your Facebook account, or you can log into YouTube with your Google account. That's an amazing feature when you exchange information. But if you want to be exchanging value, that actually becomes a bug, because you want to be protecting value and you don't want it to be as fluid as it is at the moment with Web2 hardware. And that's kind of the transition to hardware wallets and what we actually do at Ledger. This is a Web3 hardware. So this is a hardware wallet. And inside that hardware wallet is my private keys. And these private keys are secured in a, basically secure element chip. And these chips, you can find them in your credit cards, your biometric passports. And it actually enables you to keep those private keys disconnected away from the internet. And the reason why you should do this is that any internet connected device is actually probably has a very high risk of being infected by viruses, malwares, and all of these things that you probably all know. But the thing is that if it's only for a few files, that's okay. You probably get a virus on your computer. Someone probably hacks your Facebook. You contact customer support and you get your Facebook account back. If your private keys are sitting on your laptop, that's a whole other story. You could lose a lot of money. So the whole idea of custodial, so meaning not owning your private keys and keeping them on the exchange, versus non-custodial, meaning that you own your keys, and then securing these keys in the best possible way. Once you wrap your head around that concept, you start understanding how you can actually become digitally sovereign and make sure that that experience becomes as seamless and secure as possible. So yeah, I think that covers it.
And the one thing I'll say about that, because I know it's kind of like a lot of very heady terms, and when you're thinking about self-custody or this and that, you're like, sounds very intense and it sounds like a lot of work, and do I really have to do this? And it's this other thing. It's like, well, you can question whether or not, you know, what type of crypto will exist over time. But the reality is if you check on your phone how much percentage you're on your screen every week, you're spending a lot of time on your screen. And so the way when you're in your screen, you're not in London. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You're kind of in this little borderless world in your phone. And so it would make sense that over time, there's like new ways to pay for things, and there's new ways to take care of your identity in that. And Web3 is that, and it's not going away. So the earlier that you can educate yourself about that and take care of yourself, the better, because you deserve it. But also because, and this like blew my mind when I learned it from our security people, but anytime you copy and paste something on your clipboard, you should assume it's for public consumption. Like, it is truly that easy to hack into your systems. And I'm not like a paranoid person, actually probably like a too relaxed person when it comes to things like this, especially working for Ledger. But you're giving yourself a better shot as future creators and builders to think through, like, how is this technology going to impact my experience in life? And how can I have more of a chance to actually have autonomy in that, which is where more of this like self-custody conversation comes into play. Like, you don't have to be a revolutionary to give yourself the shot. You just deserve to have the education around it. And you deserve, if we're going from Web 2 to Web 3, to not have the same experience where all these companies and people are doing is taking value from you for participating. It's a fresh start, to be honest.
There's a reason why the Apples, the Googles, this Facebook are the most valuable companies in the world. It's because basically we're all working for them at 10 hours a day, every day. And so making their product better, having more information about us and how to resell information. So it's rather easy to understand that if we all working for them, if we all give them the value, of course, they're going to be the most valuable companies and individuals in the world. And this new technology, after 2008 and the crisis, somehow inspired this, okay, how can I be a citizen that doesn't depend on those mega corporations that we feed every day, every moment? And again, as Ariel said, I mean, for me, it's also, it's pretty a bad thing to understand that each year we spend more and more time in our laptop plus phone devices. I mean, I must be in the 14, 15 hours a day. Which is much more than 5 years ago and much more than 10 years ago. But I guess it's at some moment I will clock in at 20. But
I agree. I think in terms of digital fashion, that is what you said now. So there's a concept quite, for some people, still far, but like, why would you even buy the digital jumper? And I think the very easy example is like, how did we adopt Instagram? I think for me back then when Instagram came, it's like, I don't understand the concept of posting photos of myself, like to strangers. And yet we are spending a lot of hours on Instagram creating our digital identity. And this is what actually counts nowadays. You know, when you have any publishing media outlets, they would check how many followers you have on Instagram to really include you on, you know, a speaker list. So Instagram actually created a weird currency of our value recently, I noticed, like really like the Twitter followers, Instagram followers. And it is like a weird digital identity that is quite different than us because we're shaping that. We are curating how we look online. So I think, yeah, the concept of digital fashion will be close. We have some talks about it. And I think because you guys mentioned also the financial crisis, I wanted to also ask about protocols. So trying to demystify another jargon word, protocols, and leading that to the use case of blockchain. So what is the use case of blockchain in finance? So in terms of, for example, Ripple, it's something that we don't hear about it, but it's a lot of It's a protocol that's kind of powering a lot of payment systems. What's the difference between Ethereum, which kind of found now and teases, of course, its use cases in the art world, and of course, proof of attendance protocol. Lucas can talk about that as well.
Of course.
So it's a different kind of use case of how we can use blockchain technology.
Mm,
Yeah.
sure. So one of them, of course, POAP, Proof of Attendance Protocol, is a project that has a couple of years now. Because at the end of the day, it is really simple to understand. It's like those ticket stubs that you got from concerts or the sports events that you collect, and somehow you would show on your room to your buddies or your cousins, and you would start comparing what band that you like or what team sports you're following, and then imagine having that for all of your life stored not in a chalkboard, right? Chalkboard thing, but
Totally, yeah.
but on this digital blockchain that is maintained and preserved by many computers, many nodes, like Moss said previously, and that's going to be, if you guys believe it, I do, but it's a matter of choice. If you believe that's going to be there forever, then there's no chalk to maintain, or if you move, you can keep it with you, because at some moment, if you move larger or smaller, it's still on that blockchain that everyone preserves, and there's a consensus to say what is true, that what is not. So yes, POAP is one of the simplest protocol that you will be experimenting today, and then there's other ones, like DeFi protocol, or I don't know, consensus protocol. I don't know.
Yeah, go for it, Professor.
Yeah, no, I think I'm double clicking on what Lucas was saying, and Mimi as well. I think when you start thinking about what is the concept of an identity today, and how much of your identity is formed from your digital existence versus your physical one, you start seeing a trend that today your identity is basically LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. If you're a bit younger, probably going to be Fortnite or Roblox. Does anyone know what Fortnite and Roblox are? Does anyone play Fortnite or Roblox? No. But if you think about these games, and you look at the younger kind of cohorts, they socialize on these platforms. So when we probably used to socialize on MSN and Facebook, they're actually playing and socializing at the same time. They're creating avatars. They're buying Balenciaga shirts on Fortnite in order to basically convey something about their identity. So the more you start thinking about that this way, the more you start understanding that your identity is going to become very much related to your digital existence. But then when you come to this conclusion, you start realizing that whatever you have digitally, you don't truly own. So your identity is basically something that is controlled and owned by other people, whether they be, like I was saying, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. If any of your accounts are gone, your identity is gone. Some
The
influencers,
algorithm, yeah.
sorry?
The algorithm.
Yeah. Basically. And we've heard of influencers have their account blocked, and they're basically, they don't have a source of revenue anymore. All of their historical work is just wiped out. And this shouldn't be something that we shouldn't have agency over. So that's kind of the idea. And what Lucas was talking about is your memories. Your memories today, my mother used to do me like photo albums, and just every year we'd take the photos, print them, and put them in the album, say, during summer we went to the city and we did this and that. Today it's all on Instagram. But if you lose that Instagram account, you lose all your memories to some extent. And what proof of attendance protocol is doing is enabling you to basically put these memories, and it's not like Instagram, because maybe the use case will evolve, but it's kind of like being able to basically, for every event that you attend, it could be for a birthday or a talk or anything of the sort, you'd be able to basically forge that memory on the blockchain and make sure that's going to be there forever. And the thing is that once you have that token in your wallet, you can start doing very cool things with it. So I can say that, you know, everyone that's actually going to have the POAP for this talk is going to be invited for a drink next week in Paris. And if you come with the token and you scan it, you get a free drink. That's something that you can do once you don't have digital ownership and digital assets. So that was kind of a turnaround, but I really wanted to double click on what we were talking about in terms of digital identity and digital ownership. To come back to the question of protocols, you have a lot of different protocols, and you know, proof of attendance is one of them. But what you need to understand is that when the blockchain was first born, it was to exchange value. So it was just blockchain Litecoin exchanging value from A to B. But then one guy came up and he was like, what if I want to exchange value with conditions? What if I say I will only pay Lucas £2 if he delivers me tea? Then we need something called a smart contract. And that's how Ethereum came to life. The guy is called Vitalik Buterin. He was 17 years old back in the day. Today he's a bit older. And he actually designed the blockchain that enables exchange of value with conditions. And today we have like third generation blockchains. They have governance, so basically being able to vote on things on the blockchain, scalability, enabling a lot of people to use that blockchain at the same time, and more decentralization. But that's like a little bit too deep into the tech. But to me, these are the three main categories of protocols. And POAP is built on Ethereum. So it's basically with smart contracts that you can exchange value, whether it be art, you know, digital fashion, proof of attendance, tokens, etc.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about that, even from the context of maybe where you're sitting, going through this experience of learning while also building like what you want for your future around being a creator or a designer or kind of whatever your future entails. Like if you had a POAP that was like coming to a show at CSM, for example, then maybe that would enable so that these people also can follow your work in the future that you design, or they're incentivized to come back for something else later, or maybe you're actually selling certain digital pieces and they get a first look at your collection. And because they know that you were early and they came to something that they liked, they might be more incentivized to follow it later. So there are sort of like, there's a question around digital identity and marketing as well, and how you kind of get to market yourselves while also owning your own value as creators. Because I think something that we've seen as well is when you're a designer and an artist in Web 2, it's commonplace for someone bigger than you to basically take what you were working on and make it their own, right? And Web 3, there's a very inherent within the contract ability to trace where it came from. And so as an artist and as a designer, you have much, much more control over your IP and over the value of which you deserve over time as well, which I think is really important for you to understand, because that's inherent to the work that you deserve from now.
And something also to add, especially here, I don't know if you know, but again, the Facebook and the Google, they prize those engineers. I am an engineer, but the future, the value is on the engineering. And today in Web3, we also, as you become creators and owners of your crafts digitally, then you don't need anymore to be exclusively an engineer to have a saying in this new technological world. That's why there's digital fashion brands going on. There is new electronic music, there is photography, again, taking the lead into the conversation of what this new internet is becoming. And that's why it's super interesting for you to be here to hear about this, because again, MIT is great, but this Web3 culture ecosystem also values something that is besides the engineering part of the internet. So you should be paying a lot of attention.
Yeah, and maybe like one last thing I wanted to double click on in terms of, because what Ariel was saying in terms of, controlling your own IP and being able to get rewarded for your creativity and creation in a way that's perpetual is very interesting. And the way you do this is today, let's say, you create a piece of art or you design, some clothing and you want to sell them. You have to go through a third party, whether it be a gallery, a fashion house, and that third party needs to approve of what you've done and put it out for distribution, and they get to take a cut. But with the blockchain and NFTs, you don't need that third party. You could actually create anything you'd like and you'd find a buyer, and the way you'd actually sell your NFT to that, buyer, you'd sell it with obviously keeping the full fee, like there's a minimum fee that's going to the marketplace, but you could actually, in the contract that we were mentioning, you could put in secondary royalties for any secondary sale, which means that this asset doesn't basically have an expiry date. It's digitally, created, so it's probably going to be, sold on forever. For each and every single time that asset gets sold from one person to another, you get to keep your royalties. And that way, you're basically generating a certain amount of value at the beginning, but you're able to keep on, getting that revenue stream in a way that's consistent with the value that people perceive in your creation. In today's world, if you're creating a certain piece and you're selling it, you don't get to see how that, or you don't get to benefit from how that piece is just being valued by other people down the road. So that's like one more thing I wanted to add to like intellectual property and how you can benefit from that technology. And I think there are a lot of different use cases that will come out of this.
Yeah, I think the best example, I spoke to an artist recently, and he said that, when he sold something via software, it depends on the artist as well, but like sometimes the model is 60%, 40%, but usually it's also about 50-50. So actually the artist would get half of the sale price that the piece would go out. Whereas, I don't know, as an example, OpenSea, which is the marketplace for NFTs, they're taking 2.5%. And then you have this royalties that Mo was talking about. So every time someone is reselling your artwork, you still get percentage from that. Whereas, I think once it goes to Sotheby's and then it goes to Christie's, goes to a different gallery, you kind of like, you have zero control of what's happening to the piece, and then you're not getting rewarded by that. But yeah, so I think we are ready, and let's start with the NFTs.
So pay attention, guys. You will finish this class with an NFT.
You have a question?
We have a question there.
Yeah, sorry, just before we move on, I have a quick question. You said that you access a software wallet through a Web3 device. What would a Web3 device look like?
Oh, what a good question.
That's what
So
device.
this is currently a Web3 device, and the way you should really think about it is like an authenticator. Like you basically use it to verify that because your private key is kept off the blockchain, that it is you that's actually attempting to make this transaction, whether it's for an NFT or for the exchange or whatever. A future Web3 device might be where you have to make a choice between, this current phone that you're using for X, Y, and Z, and one where maybe you don't have Instagram or something else, but you have a new secure version of these things. And maybe it has a version of Signal or Telegram or things that allow you to choose what you give up versus automatically it being assumed that it's being taken from you. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Yeah.
Do we have another question? Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Love it.
Open the
Yeah,
gate.
yeah. You want to go back?
Okay, so far in my understanding, so the blockchain account and the wallet can be like personal use. However, I think imagine there will be like a lot of business trading on the blockchain on the Web3. So is there any possibilities that organization or institution to co-create an account together?
Absolutely.
Great question.
Yeah, I think there are, and at Ledger we have our Ledger Enterprise Solutions, and the idea is that the private key is obviously being held by the company, but you have multiple ways that you can govern these keys, and no single person can actually have full authority to take a decision. And depending on your hierarchy, where you stand in the hierarchy, you get more control than other people. But the idea is that you have about 15 HSMs, what we call hardware security modules, that are distributed within the organization, and depending on the action that you want to be taking and the amount of value that you want to be sending out or transferring in, you'd have to certain number of people would have to vote yes in order for this to happen.
It's kind of like if you're at school and you have meal points, you can like do a certain amount of meal points on your own, but if you need to like re-up, someone else has to maybe authorize with you that it's okay to do it. So it's just like multi-sig, like it's multiple people, so you're not the sole actor or thief.
Sure, go ahead.
There were other.
I have a question about voice as well, because I experience that my Ethereum has been so far enough because the spam link it's really usually for people that using Discord, maybe some send you the link, and I think everybody will experience this kind of thing. So I think it's really take risks to use the open source like the wallet and even the hardware wallet, because if you lost it, you will just cannot find it. I think it is going to be changed in the future. It will be more easy for people to use even the software wallet or the hardware wallet and be more safety.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, you hit the nail on the head, which is that it's still really hard, right? We're really early and we're kind of in this wild, wild west zone where everyone's trying to hack and scam you. It's very easy to click a bad link. And the user experience, the UX is not where it should be, right? And so that's why actually we say that the hardware wallet is so important, because it's the best possible chance of mitigating against human error. Like we as humans want to do things quickly and long term, that's just, you know, so we'll get to a point where ease of use is better. We'll get to a point where there will be more verification or there might be more insurance for self-custody. Right now, because we're so early, it's like being in 1998 and before the iPod came out and you're using like MP3s and like nobody really knows what that means. And it's, you know, like maybe you got one from McDonald's, like it's like that early, right? So you kind of have to, but yeah, that's why we encourage education so much and security in the conversation.
But to clarify something, if you actually do click on a bad link and download the malware, if you own a hardware wallet, you're basically protected from this. So the only thing that you should, you know, basically educate yourself on if you own a hardware wallet are basically two things. First of all, the security of your seed phrase. You need to keep it away from the internet, note it down on a piece of paper, never take a picture of it, never save it, never screenshot it, never send it to a friend. Keep it away from the internet, tuck it somewhere safe, probably away from your place. You can actually seed multiple devices with that same phrase. So you can have multiple ledgers seeded with the same phrase. That way you can keep it away. And the second thing is careful what you're signing. The only way you can basically get scammed is by actually the scammers, since they can't hack into your wallet, they sometimes, you know, do social engineering, basically engineer a situation in which they will push a signature to you that is a malicious one and kind of design it in a way that you'd accept it. So you need to be very careful with regards to what you sign. So if you keep your seed phrase if you keep your seed phrase safe and you be careful with what you sign, you're going to be fine. That's kind of the.
We think that like the safety responsibility has to be transferred to users.
Yeah.
If you use bank account, bank will take the legal liability to the users, but like for the blockchain, there's no legal for you.
That's correct.
Exactly.
But the one thing I will say about that is, as you've noticed, probably there are more and more sort of like two-factor text messages or authentications for your current bank accounts or other systems, right? That's because they know that there's increased attacks and they can't really keep you safe on their own. And so they're trying to think of other backup ways to try and increase security. And so Web 2 is increasing with more and more security frictions. So this is like a seesaw that's happening right now. Yeah.
I think that was the last question.
I'm very happy to hear that education is such a big topic, and especially because, for example, in the fashion industry, we don't have it at all. And my personal research is on customer education and consumer education. And what I found out is that, like, grabbing the first attention usually is quite easy because that's where you hook people and that's where they have their own motivation to be educated to learn something new. But the challenge is really long-term education. And one of the examples, for example, would be that people tend to lose their keys over time. So I'm just wondering if you have, like, how do you actually educate people, and do you have this long-term interest in mind that you have to have this long-term education, that you have to keep people in the loop to not lose attention, to not lose interest? How do you tackle that issue?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and that's really it's been our focus at Ledger for the past couple of years, but we're really doubling down on it this year. And I think that, you know, the way we've been doing education in the past We've been using like Web 2 kind of channels in order to educate about Web 3. So articles, videos, trying to make it as captivating and entertaining as possible. We're doing the podcast as well. But this year we kind of wanted to basically adopt more kind of like Web 3 mechanics. So we're really doubling down on gamified education. So you can actually learn about Web 3 by actually, doing every single step, that creating a wallet, checking into a platform, and then, having some sort of a gamified experience that enables you to learn and earn NFTs at the same time, or earn any kind of rewards. There's also the metaverse, and we're using like gaming environments in order to enable, people to play games and learn at the same time, and all while they're playing, they can actually gain NFT rewards as well. And that way you get to experience Web3 while learning about it. And it doesn't feel so foreign when you're, reading an article about how to do something, but you're not doing it at the same time. So yeah, I think like this is really where our focus is. And education is really at the core of everything that we're doing, because as you were saying, to empower people, because this is really, really the self-custody and digital sovereignty. We provide the knowledge and the tools, but we can't do it for anyone. And that's kind of the ethos of Web3.
And the last thing I'll say in 2 seconds is I do think it's important, because we talked about the need state today really coming from a place of choice. But over 70% of the world doesn't actually live in a true democracy.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the need states for people actually engaging in the blockchain are because it's an alternative to inflation, to unstable governments, to all of these things where you can take your value with you as you go. So also bear in mind that the tools that this exists for over time come from many different facets.
Yeah.
Okay, I think let's do the
let's
wallets.
end by doing
Yeah,
First people.
yeah.
Okay, so basically, we are encouraging you to do a Web2 device, to do a code wallet that is Rainbow Wallet, but it's okay. It has been validated by the Ledger.
It is available in Ledger Live.
It's
so.
available on that.
So basically, on your phone, if you will, you can do it right now. Look for Rainbow Wallet. It's free of charge. You can do it in a couple of minutes. And so you download it from your stores. Normally in 3 clicks, you should be able to get to your newfound public key, the one that is the mailbox where everyone will be able to send you new NFTs or new assets. So do you guys find it on the stores? Yes. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Yes, but then you gotta secure that with Ledger.
That's if you want to get a Ledger and secure private keys.
Yeah.
The Rainbow Wallet is actually available on Ledger Live, which is like the companion app that comes with Ledger. So you can basically access it all while being sure that your private keys are secured in an offline environment. But it's not a mandatory.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the safest way for you to do it.
We shill it, but it's true.
It's true. It is the safest way to do it. So if you want to get Oculus, it is a nice fashion item now.
That's true.
It is. It is cool.
Every day, or it's just for the
I mean,
today?
Ledger was
I
at the
sleep
Met
with it.
Gala this year. I just want to say.
Is it waterproof? Can you shower in it?
No,
No.
not yet. Not yet.
If you
Soon.
if you look up Ledger and Ghana, you can see Ledger on the red carpet.
Nice.
Oh,
We care.
and Ledger just went to the space as well.
Yeah, we're everywhere. Most importantly at CSM today, though. So.
Exactly. And so after that, we got the 4-step situation where you click the big button that says get a new wallet, and then it's basically it. You have that, and then you copy the address, keep it on your, how do you say, the memory of the phone. There's a clipboard.
Yeah.
The clipboard of your phone.
Yeah.
And so yes, do that, and then after that, you can just mint your first free NFT, of course. Yeah, let's put them right to there you go. So there is, you scan that QR code and you will get to a simple page where you just passed the new address that you got from Rainbow, and then that's it. And that will be your first NFT in your first Ethereum wallet, which is great, right?
So basically you make your Rainbow account and then you copy, then you scan this
Mm-hmm.
and then you can claim it through your Rainbow wallet. And think about it as like your Rainbow wallet is that front wallet. And then eventually if you get like a ledger or a private, like a cold wallet, you know, that's your secure one.
Basically, what you're doing is that you're going to the blockchain, you're saying, hey, I want an account. Once you create the account on the blockchain, you're going to take that public address of the account. You're going to go to POAP and you're going to like, hey, send me that NFT to my account. And what you're doing is that you're taking your address, your public address of your account, giving it to POAP so that they can send you your first free NFT. So it's like a two-step process. You basically have to go to the blockchain first, create your account, take that public address and give it to POAP. This is like kind of, it seems complicated, but it's
kind of like your
seamless.
code, basically.
Yeah.
But you gotta do it now. If you were taking picture and hopefully getting after that, that is not how it works, because in 10 minutes from now, that system will be off because proof of attendance protocol shouldn't be available for anyone that is not here, right? So in order to try to securize it the best we can for this system, you should scan it now, not taking picture, and obviously not sharing the QR code online, right? You're not doing that. Well, she's here, so she can.
But I can share the name.
Yeah.
Yes, to her, it's okay. Proof of attendance it's also about, secure, crystallizing the moment and being part of this shared experience. So you could technically put it on Twitter, and technically someone could have this POAP, but I will be closing that as soon as I'm off this table. But the idea, I mean, we do this with other systems, with more secure system, with backends and stuff like that. Or like I have here I have a card that has a chip inside that will give different POAPs to anyone that taps this card. So this is also another way to do it.
That's why people like POAPs, is because they're in the moment. So like you have artists creating things, or it's for a show, it's for memory. It's not for forever. And that's how you prove it, right? So, but there definitely are cases where people will go to a festival and be like, yo, can you send me that POAP? Because that artist was cool and I want it. Right?
But in this case, Mimi is the artist, no? You did the POAP?
Which one?
That
Oh, I did the POAP, yes.
she did the POAP.
Yeah, so one of one.
It's actually generative art.
Let's see.
She's the artist.
Art on the POAP is generated by AI.
That's
It's got a piece of gen art.
So yeah, well, I will be here, of course, after the slide is gone. But yeah, remember that it's about proving your attendance, not sharing it online with anyone else. And surely, I want to trust you, but not that much.
And if you guys have more questions and you're curious about more, you could literally just search Ledger, LEDGR on Twitter. We share a ton of info. Don't follow any other accounts. That's probably not real, but they follow us on Twitter, so you can find us, and Mimi has our info. So if you have any questions, just let us know. I know it's complicated, but how many people feel like they learned, like, more at the end than you did at the beginning? Okay.
Raise
Okay.
high hands, please.
High hands, yeah. No more. Okay. How many people feel like they could maybe explain Web3 to a friend? Okay, I'll take
Okay.
that. That
cool.
counts. Okay, cool.
That counts a lot.
Okay.
I got excited with every session because like the first one was like 0 questions. And
Nice.
the second one
Well-
was like slightly
Well,
more.
but I wouldn't be surprised if the next one won't have that many questions. Because we're cool. We are the coolest.
What is- oh, the next one we have.
She's like, no, you're wrong.
Oh, we have a question.
I love questions.
Oh,
Someone shared it on Twitter.
someone put it on Twitter already. Well, someone put it online.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay, it's on YouTube. Okay.
All right. We're live on YouTube.
Okay. Okay. So okay. Don't worry.
We'll send you more POAPs.
We'll have more for you.
Yeah, I'll generate some more AI. So I can generate.
No, I can do it now. I mean, I can do it. But yeah.
You said that Web3 is sort of like its own thing, it's isolated, that's necessarily sort of like world, but it seems like now that religious age relies heavily on Web2 as
Yeah.
like you need to promote yourself, use Discord, Twitter, not really Instagram, but have your own website and stuff like that to sort of have visibility and communication. And it seems like Web3 can't exist without Web2, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Correct.
I think it's the conundrum that we're in. Everything we're doing is in spite of Web 2. But again, we're early. So there will be a point where we'll work towards some type of break, but we're just not there yet.
And I think everything is working off the internet. So if there's no more internet, there's no Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And I think, like to Ariel's point, Web 3 is at its infancy. So there are a lot of different things that we could be doing using blockchain that we're not doing because it's not scalable enough. You can't have billions of people using blockchain at the same time. But the idea is that the more we're able to develop the underlying technology, the more we'll be able to build apps that are similar to the one we have in Web 2, but they're more decentralized, that provide ownership to the user, and that enables users to monetize their existence within these ecosystems.
So it's like Web 2 are the parents, the Web 3 is the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The rebellious baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different values.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think it's
Thank you.
wrap.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you to all the speakers. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope we get more and more people, especially in MA innovation management, into the Web3 at this understanding the changes that are happening. And think not only just in the finance space, but in the art space as well. We are seeing that across our clients of CSM, and I hope this session is quite useful for you. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, guys.